It's time for your national forecast, the first one of the new year. I'm Matt Hamel and wishing you a happy new year on behalf of myself and everybody here at the Weather Network. Now, weather-wise, we're starting off 2026 very cold for much of Ontario and Quebec. Look at this cold Arctic air that sunk pretty deep into the country. Now, we might start to see some relief as we look in towards next week, but it's going to be a cold couple of days for many. Looking at our daytime highs, for some in parts of Ontario and Quebec, these daytime highs are some of the coldest we've seen on New Year's Day in over a decade, or at least within striking distance. Now, we'll start off in more northern parts of the country. We still had some blizzard warnings early on our New Year's Day as that low pressure system over Hudson's Bay continuing to drive not just the snowfall, but very strong winds as well. Other than that, not a whole lot of action elsewhere in the region. We're looking at high minus 30 degrees for the first day of 2026 in Yellowknife with mostly sunny skies. Now, Iqaluit helping to show a bit of a favorable temperature pattern starting to move into the weekend, but dipping back down in temperatures once the first full work week of January gets going. Atlantic Canada, well, we're seeing on our New Year's Day already quite a bit of activity for Newfoundland with a mixture of snow, rain, and even a bit of freezing rain there for the Avalon earlier on. But the Maritime's also going through it with more widespread snowfall expected and some heavier pockets, especially in parts of Nova Scotia as we get into the afternoon here. Into tomorrow morning, still going to be seeing some active weather for Newfoundland, mostly rain, and then that snowfall gradually pushing out of the Maritimes as we get into our Friday evening. But then looks like another system to start the weekend moving into Newfoundland. We'll have to keep an eye on that. But just for today and tomorrow, the snowfall is going to be particularly heavy into parts of New Brunswick and western Newfoundland, and the wind likely going to be a factor as well. Could be making for some poor visibility and very difficult driving conditions. Now, the cold has arrived in Ontario and Quebec. It's not quite in the Atlantic region yet, but as you can see, either awaiting a day or another 2 days, and that cold looks to be really settling in. You see the Maritimes especially with some chilly days ahead. Now for southern Quebec, we're looking at a bit of early New Year's Day snowfall, but beyond that, it's just the temperatures that are grabbing our attention. Look at these overnight lows, my goodness. Without even factoring in the wind chill, some are approaching minus 30 degrees for that overnight low, and some are right at that minus 30 mark. Now, for Ontario, we also have a pretty frigid pattern, well below seasonal temperatures for the day and overnight. Yep, feeling that cold. Now, there's that snowfall, that low pressure system over parts of southern Quebec, pardon me, but we're also looking at some snowfall in the form of lake effect squalls for parts of Ontario. So that's going to be along a number of the Great Lakes, and that will continue to bring the snowfall through the day into tomorrow as well. So a pretty stubborn and persistent lake effect snow pattern. Here's a look at some of those forecast totals, up to 40 centimeters on the board there. You see a bit north of Barrie, less snowfall reaching areas like the GTA, but maybe still enough to reduce visibility and make for a slower drive at times on our New Year's Day. Here's a look at those wind gusts that we're working with, and this will make those wind chill values really quite noticeable as we can see over the next few days. That cold pattern does persist before hopefully some relief early in the coming work week. For the prairies, snowfall early on our New Year's Day in parts of southern Manitoba, but it's going to be more persistent into Alberta, and a couple cycles of light snow moving across the region. Kind of a pattern we've been seeing in recent days that does look to continue. All the way through Sunday morning, it's clear that central Alberta getting the heavier snowfall amounts, while it gets less and less as we head further along that temperature boundary into parts of central Saskatchewan and southern Manitoba. The wind is going to be still quite strong in parts of northern Manitoba, where those blizzard warnings around that low pressure system continue, but ultimately the rest of the region not dealing with too much in the way of wind. Still an above freezing daytime high in parts of southern Alberta, but that colder air has really started to impact parts of the province, as one area that has remained quite mild is southern Alberta, but starting to feel some chillier weather pushing in. Look at our temperatures across the region over the next few days. As far as British Columbia is looking, well, it's been a dry couple of days for southern areas, although that pattern comes to an end as a much more active series of events does appear to be in store for the first few days of the new year. So after a fairly quiet New Year's Day, the rainfall building in and making for quite the stretch of active conditions. Also, some concerns as we head into the weekend, a confluence of strong winds and waves and king tide expected as we get those conditions really getting more windy into Sunday. And for our afternoon on New Year's Day, cloudy conditions, but yes, the rainy weather is on the way.